Hi, my name is Pascal. Today we will talk a little more detail about power racks and half racks and which one of the two you should get. If you want to dig really deep on the topic, then please follow the links in the description box below. I have written extensively on the topic, and I will also walk you through a tour of this home gym that I've built myself if you stick around my YouTube channel and just check out the other videos that I've already uploaded. The first thing to consider between a full rack or a power rack and a half rack is how much space you actually have in your home gym. So really take your measurements seriously, and then also have enough clearance around the rack itself so that you can comfortably walk around it. And keep in mind that if you store the plates and the barbell on the rack, it will protrude on both sides of the rack. So really take that into account when you're making your measurements, because it is easy to just measure the square footage or the square, space of what the rack is taking up, and then not take into account any attachments or things that you're storing on the rack itself, and all of a sudden your bar path is about that far away from the wall. It's still manageable, but if you have anything that goes wrong during the lift, you're directly into disaster territory. So have enough clearance that at least yourself, when you go sideways, can comfortably move in and out from the side of the rack, because that is often overlooked. And then look at whether a half rack or a full rack is better for you. Generally speaking, I will recommend the half rack for home gyms to save money and space. The second thing to consider between a half rack and a full rack is how big you are yourself. Now, to be honest, in most cases, the half rack will be more than enough for yourself. If you are more than 120 kg and over 2 meters tall, which most of us unfortunately aren't unless you play the NFL or NBA, then you will be more than covered with a half rack. If you want to get a better idea of the dimensions, then please follow my playlist here, which is called Training for the Jersey. I will try to get into the Irish team in the Masters division for powerlifting. Fingers crossed whether I'll do it. I have 4 or 5 years to go for that, and that will give you a good idea of the dimensions of a full rack. I personally own an RM4, that is what I'm in here now, and I'm 185 centimeters tall and I weigh about 100 kg, and I have plenty of space in this. In fact, I regret the choice that I did for the RM4. If I could redo it, I would get the RM3 right away and put the money that I would save in the bank against a Rhino from Rogue. But anyway, I can't redo that, but you are here to learn from my mistakes, right? Another thing to consider before you hit the buy button is where you will store your plates and whether you will get a full rack or a half rack. If you are already intending to store the plates off the rack, either on the wall or on a plate tree, then that makes the case even stronger for getting a half rack. If you want to store the plates on the half rack itself, then just consider how tall you are, how big you are, and how you're gonna move, and then make your decision for a full rack. Because what I'm currently not doing is I'm not actually storing the plates on a half rack and do exercises in it, so I can't really comment on that. What I would suggest though is that deadlifting inside the rack, if you are storing the plates on the rack itself, could get a bit tricky, because then you will have the circumference of the plates, you will have the halved rack, and then if you then also put the barbell and the plates inside the rack, this leaves really little space for you to move freely for your deadlifts. So if you're intending to deadlift inside the rack and store the plates on the rack itself, maybe get the full rack instead of the half rack, or reconsider your plate storage and move them either to the wall or on a plate tree somewhere in a corner away from the rack itself. Another thing to consider is budget. So between a full rack and a half rack, depending on the vendor, you will usually save about 100 to 500 euros or dollars. Now that can either be put towards better plates, a better barbell, or other toys for the gym like kettlebells, dumbbells. The other route to travel is you can get a half rack, but then for the same budget you can actually get it customized and get a color of your choice, or do something else with the cross members, or change the socket pull-up bar. You know, it leaves you just with more options against the same budget if you go for half rather than full. Of course, the other flip side of the coin is if you have unlimited budget, or if you have a very, very generous budget, then why not go big or go home? But you know, that is not everybody, and usually in home gym scenarios the space is limited. So if the space is limited, then make best use of it with a half rack. So that was my quick rundown on power racks and half racks. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and tell your friends about my channel. And if you have any questions or remarks, just pop them in the comments below. Thank you, have a nice day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.